All right, so the zombie story.
Yeah, welcome to a special edition of Nuance, or Mike Wood.
Yeah, the crazy edition of. I don't know. I forget that I have all these stories from policing.
Sure, yeah.
Because I think one of the reasons is I hear other cops tell stories, and they sound so ridiculous that I don't want to be that dude telling that story. So I never tell any of the police stories unless I'm like directly asked to tell a story. But since we hit on zombies and how we have biases and fears and these things, a particular incident we can say reminded me. And I ended up writing a short story off of this called Shift Change. I wrote it under a pseudonym.
A pseudonym, interesting.
So
was it published somewhere?
Yeah, I self-published it. It's
okay.
on Amazon or whatever, but it's like free or something. I don't know. It was just a dumb thing I did. It was a very short story. But I was in the Eastern District, which is, for people that don't understand the districts in Baltimore, which is going to be everybody.
Yeah.
That if you envision watching The Wire and you envision the drug dealing corners, the poverty, the marginalization, vacant buildings, this is the general scene you're going to have visually in East or West Baltimore. It's those crime hub centers. East and West Baltimore may be per capita like some of the most, definitely top 5 most violent crime rates in the entire country.
Yeah.
These two separate districts of Baltimore. So this is where I'm a supervisor, I'm a sergeant, I'm going through used to things like, drunk and disorderly, drug dealing, shootings, things like that. We get a call for, it's a like a fall night. So I don't know if it was spring or fall, but it was one of those nice nights where the weather's good, it's real dark. The city has that eerie quietness to it that it can have on a fall or spring night. It can be like 10 o'clock and the city can be like silent in some areas. It's weird.
Because the population loss that the city has suffered, I mean, one of the first things we noticed was the lack of people. And even, some of the artists that I've interviewed who talk about, what the Baltimore they remember, they've mentioned like, there were a lot more people then. So, there is an eeriness that can set in when you're like, it's not like people are inside. It's like there's no people around, right? Like there's no, and you can cut that with a knife when you're
life.
There.
Like the rats don't feel like life or anything like that. It feels like the kind of like a desert or abandoned place.
Yeah.
And we got this call that it was towards the end of the shift. That's why it's shift change. And one of my officers responded to a call for like a sound of I think it was like a cat trapped in a building or something like that. And so she goes to the call and don't hear from her. It's getting late to the shift. So I want to my intention as the sergeant is to be like, yo, wrap this up.
Yeah.
Like it's time to get out of here.
Try to go home.
And she's like, well, I don't hear anything. I don't think anything's going on. And then I'm sitting there and I hear this noise. It's like, coming from the building. And I'm like, that is not a cat. And it's these buildings that are near Hopkins and they're like 3 stories high, big buildings. At one point in time, there was obviously money in these things. They're massive townhouses. I know you're thinking they're townhouses, but they are big buildings. And it was all boarded up, nice and clean. So, like, everyone, you'll see a dilapidated vacant, and then you'll see ones where people intend on doing something with it later, and those would be really nicely boarded up and secured. This one even had, like, cinder blocks on a lot of the windows, and the inside was very nice. So we hear this noise on the inside, and I'm like, oh, damn it. Like, that's not a cat. I don't know what that is, but I'm going to have to go investigate it.
Yeah.
And I call for help. One of the other supervisors, one of these few people I really trusted to go into an unknown situation. And so I called him over. He was one of the other sergeants. And heard the noise again. We're like, all right, man, let's just go ahead. Shift is ending, but we're going to have to figure this out. We go into the door, and it's all completely boarded up, and we keep hearing, like, coming from the building. It's so fucking weird, and it's echoing throughout this silent city. The door is, like, stuck. We can't do anything about it. So it takes me, like, 5 minutes of kicking the door to finally get it open. So kick in the door, and as it flies open, this building is completely empty. The floors are all redone, new plywood. Like all the walls are patched up. Everything is like just an empty house that has like a half an inch of dust on it. It's completely pitch black. Like not a ray of light is getting into this mansion-sized townhouse. And we're on the first floor, so it's just me and him, and all we have is the beam of our flashlights. So it is like a video game, and so you have this fear inside of yourself that you're trying to fight back, like, fuck, like, what is this? And just these narrow beams of our light, we're trying to, like, search the building and go behind us. It's just me and him. I don't want other people in there. We both were pretty good at knowing what we were doing, so we're kind of clearing the rooms and trying to move through, not being loud, but kind of being scared and wondering what the hell's going on, and constantly from above us, like it's just out to this element of what the fuck is that?
Yeah.
And we're gonna have to work our way towards it. But I mean, even I don't know whether it was tactics or it was fear, but part of us was hesitating and being very meticulous in what we were doing because it was like maybe a delay tactic to not get up the steps as fast as possible. So we end up starting to go up the steps, and it's those big, expansive steps where you kind of like see things going up and sounds echo everywhere. Keep hearing as we're like shuffling up these steps, and we're trying to clear each room. Still nothing but the glow of our flashlights. I mean, that is all we have. And so we keep hearing it upstairs. The whole second floor. We clear out each room slowly. Like I'm watching the third floor to make sure he could clear out the other rooms. And like we got each other's backs and all this shit trying to be tactical. We get up to the third floor and you're still hearing it. And it's clear that it's from this back room that we like still can't see. It's like, oh my God, what the fuck is in this room? So clear out a couple more rooms, and this is our last room. It's our last room. We've cleared everything out. There's this loud noise now. I mean, it is like right there next to us. And we know as soon as we turn this corner, we're going to see what it is. As we get closer, there's just a red glow barely flickering from that room. And so it's in pitch black, and you have like this just subtly less than a lighter, but flickering of light. It's like, oh my God, what the fuck? And then as we get closer, you pick in, and there's a like a bundle of rags on the floor, and it's embering, and like there's smoke coming off of it, and that's where the little bit of light is coming from. Is this tiny flickering flame that's kind of traveling around this bundle of rags with this slow smoke coming off of it, and all you see is the slight glow of this flame with like the smoke kind of trailing into the air. And it's like, oh my God, like what is going on? Move a little further, and you start to see like the human shape in the room. Like, oh fuck. So we shine the flashlight and just coming around the corner of the room, and there's a guy there. Sitting like just next to these embers, and he's a black male, like maybe in his 30s or 40s, yelling like a zombie, like not making words. He's just going rocking back and forth. There's like blood and clothes and things just like about, and he's like, it looks like he's burning, and his skin is burnt, and he's kind of like the heat is coming off of his skin, and his hair's burnt. He has pieces of skin ripped off of him, and his hands are just out like this. His hands are covered in blood, like there's no skin, like from his, like just above his wrist down, and so he's holding his hands out in like an open prayer position, just moaning, rocking back and forth, and so we're giving him commands like, hey, stand up, get on the ground, like whatever we were saying. I don't remember the exact words, but we're trying to, and he's not responding to us at all, and he's just going, and he's sitting like kind of Indian style, rocking back and forth, and his genitalia is like exploded, and so there's blood everywhere, but it's like ripped and kind of like dangly, as this kind of blood is around the room with still just this glow, and he won't respond to anything we're saying. And I turn and I look at my partner, and I'm like I don't know what to do right now, but like go get help, because our radios wouldn't work on the third floor in this building, and had to go out to make the call. And I was like, go find some place where you can call. But I'm telling you, like, if this dude moves, like, I'm fucking lighting him up. I don't know what to do. Like, I couldn't process what was happening.
Yeah.
And like he sits there still moaning, and he's just moaning, and there's just blood. And that light is just flickering, and like I turn off my light because I don't want to sit there and keep staring at him. So he's just like this silhouette now in this dark room of flame and smoke and entrapment in this pitch black area. And so the fire department comes. The fire department is not filled with all of my biases from this experience.
Sure, yeah.
They come in the room, put on a couple flashlights, go up to the guy, like, "Hey man, you okay?" They start touching him, and they start cleaning him up, and like putting him on the stretcher, and like getting him to the hospital. But of course, like I was filled by this weird scenario that was going on, and there was a butane bottle on the ground, and so I thought that. Like once I realized that I was not in a zombie movie, that this guy must have been huffing the butane. It exploded, so he's burnt and beat up. Like if you're huffing butane and the butane's right above your genitalia, this makes sense. So I'm like, all right, wrap this shit up. This is a guy doing dumb shit, and I was never scared, and that was a silly thing to have occurred. And so we write it all up, but the next day we find out that was like not the case at all. Once the detectives got back to the place and were able to get lights back into the room, like they used the guy's blood to write graffiti on the wall and like send messages. It ended up being like a BGF hit or something like that on a guy that wasn't doing anything. And
wow.
The building was all boarded up, so they would have had to have dragged him up there through like the second floor into these windows, and they had just left him there to die apparently. And the detectives, at least figured out what happened and all those things. But it's a really good case of how we get caught in like these perspectives that take away an element of reality and cloud our vision as to what happened. I'm smart enough to know there's not a damn zombie, and I'm smart enough to know that this dude is obviously in pain and is no threat to me whatsoever, but I wasn't processing that because the scene was so biased in what it appeared to be, that a certain element of hesitation and fear kind of crept in, that I wasn't evaluating that situation properly, and I didn't even get the right evidence of the situation because I had been influenced by this whole damn thing, and I got into a narrative, and that narrative just went with it is because there was evidence for that narrative. So once that narrative was in my head, it was like, this is fine, wrap it up, move on, injured person. But that's not what it is. Just like in a lot of situations in life, as we take these information and these narratives and we run with it, it's not stopping to ever reevaluate what was truly going on. And that's how I almost killed a zombie.